I got some coupons to try out these Back to the Roots products, and so far we've only gotten 2, but it comes with this windowsill tomato planter and this organic mushroom grow kit, and there's a few more that we just haven't picked up yet. But I figure with all this COVID-19 quarantine business going on, it's a great time to start growing our own food at home. What have you learned?
Well, the tomato's done already. I just have to water the soil and put the seeds in. And so
oh my gosh, I forgot how slow this camera zooms.
I'll have to water it a couple times a week and keep it covered to build humidity in there. But they should start germinating in like a week, I think it said. It's scary.
Scary.
A little bit.
Not scarier than COVID-19.
Debatable.
Ugh. Okay.
It smells very like organic.
Earthy?
Yeah.
It looks weird. Ew, it tells you to do that?
Yeah.
What is that?
The substrate is all that it's referred to.
Oh, I smell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it smells like
It has that like real
dirt
earthy.
and mushrooms.
Yeah. And we gotta soak it overnight. Or for 6 to 10 hours. So update on our organic mushroom kit. I don't know if you can tell, but it's starting to grow a little bit on the side. You can definitely see some growth in there. It's also like a lot whiter in the score section than it was before. So it's definitely doing stuff. It's gonna be pretty gross. So right now we're just letting it sun. I watered the tomato earlier. I don't really see anything there yet. So this thing is starting to get real gross. I feel like even just from yesterday you can see a lot more like height on a lot of these. Especially down over here. Seems to be the grossest. This thing is pretty disgusting. It's definitely one of those lessons on how much we're not aware of where our food comes from. When these are nicely packaged in the grocery store, they're great. When you actually see them like growing like this, it's pretty fucking disgusting.
Pandemic, what you need to know. Here's David Muir.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this special live 2020 Pandemic, What You Need to Know. And as we come on the air tonight, much of America shutting down. Late today, President Trump issuing new nationwide guidelines for Americans across this country in the fight against the coronavirus. The outbreak spreading across the U.S. More than 1,300 new cases in just the last 24 hours, and that's without testing fully up to speed. In total, more than 4,600 cases in 49 states, at least 82 deaths. Late today, President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus is not under control, urging Americans not to gather in groups larger than 10 and to avoid restaurants and bars. And he said the U.S. could be dealing with this right into the summer. Tonight, a major lock.
Happy anniversary. 12 years.
Fancy.
Very fancy. Never thought we'd be celebrating our anniversary in the middle of a pandemic. But here we are. Clearly, this has changed a lot in the entire trajectory of our year. But as long as we have each other, we'll get through it all. Stick with me. I love you. I think it's time for some Quarantinis. Can do.
Shall we show our gourmet anniversary lunch?
A light snack before I make drinks.
Leftover pizza. How romantic.
Well,
We're gonna mix up some Quarantinis. Got a stack of Emergen-C. Got some orange juice.
on my foot.
Sorry, Francisco Toes. You just want to pre-dissolve it?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a gin-based Quarantini. Did you forget about it?
No.
What are you making?
I'm making you some weird concoction of your devising that you keep calling a Quarantini.
You're having it too. And then topping off with some orange juice. How are you making yours?
I'm essentially gonna do a margarita just with a little splash of the Quarantini mix.
We got our Quarantinis.
By Quarantini, yours is pretty much just gin and orange juice. How is it?
It's fine. It's like alcoholic orange juice.
Okay. Good.
Happy Quarantini-versary!
Happy Quarantini-versary.
Happy anniversary, bud.
Happy anniversary, baby. it would be nice if this was under more auspicious circumstances.
With it being our 12th year anniversary, we thought we'd just give a brief update on what's been going on. We are almost through March, and
It's the 21st.
the coronavirus, COVID-19, has changed a lot of our lives, and it's really weird because it's like we were just talking about how like it's kind of like this invisible thing that is just kind of always impacting your life.
I think the hard part is that until like yesterday, it hadn't really affected our day-to-day life that much. Like we were both still going to work. It was really more in the abstract as far as like not wanting to go to the grocery store too much or whatever, or not being able to go out to eat. The normal day-to-day was mostly like unchanged.
I mean, to give the quick recap, so at the end of December, there was this outbreak of a novel coronavirus in Wuhan, China. And like I remember hearing about it at that point and seeing videos on Imgur where like there was just overcrowding at hospitals. People didn't know how to react and how to treat this virus. And the hopes was they could lock down the city of Wuhan and keep it contained in China. That didn't happen. This is like a scary movie, and this virus has spread throughout the entire world. All 6 continents, excluding Antarctica. I work in a hospital, so there's a lot of talk about it. There are literally multiple daily meetings talking about how to be prepared for it because this virus is deadly, particularly in people who are older, over 60, or have pre-existing underlying health conditions. I mean, it's not just impacting them. There are still younger people getting very sick, dying. I think one of the scariest things is you can be asymptomatic for up to 14 days, and you can be spreading the disease to other people and have no idea. Like, I have the concern with my parents who are both over 60 who maybe don't have the best of health and are going out and being around other people, and like I was just saying, like I've become like the responsible adult and yelling at them not to go outside, and I was like, can I just ground my parents until the coronavirus is over?
It's not until like the beginning of this month that it's really like hit the States like with any real degree.
So Italy has gotten hit really bad. They've now had more deaths in Italy than they had in China. So yeah, we had the first case in the U.S. was in Seattle, wasn't it?
It was in like the Washington area that I'm aware of.
So there was a kind of a outbreak centered there that actually was in like a nursing home. Now it's in all 50 states. So we live in Ohio. Like the first cases in Ohio were just announced like maybe last week or something.
My sense of time with this thing has just gotten ruined. Like I feel like it's been going on forever.
There were a couple up in Cleveland, which is a fair distance from here. But then it was probably like near the end of last week where there was an announcement that there were 3 cases at Westchester Hospital. And those were the first really in the Cincinnati area. There's now been more. I work in a hospital again, so like I have just high anxiety going into the hospital on a daily basis. So luckily I'm going to be able to start working from home next week for at least like a 2-week trial period. So at least it's something to help resolve some of my anxiety and just being in that type of environment. But Francisco almost was going to be working from home, but it seems like his company has moved enough people off-site that they felt like it was still safe for some groups of people to keep coming in. So I think that could be reevaluated if circumstances change. The current state of Ohio, they closed down all of the bars and restaurants last weekend. Right now you can still get carry-out from certain restaurants, but like there's no more dining in at anywhere. They closed down like any like venues where people would mass gather, like theaters, bowling alleys, anywhere you're gonna have close contact, like salons.
I mean, just anything where like you don't have to be there, they're closing down. Essentially, it's just like grocery stores and hardware stores and like what you think of as the essentials that are still mostly staying open.
It's a really unsettling time. I think right now there's been a lot of talk about flattening the curve, which instead of like if you have this mass spike of this pandemic where you have a bunch of people getting sick at the same time, that can really overwhelm the healthcare system. But instead, if you can kind of flatten that out, and you have people, when they're getting sick, it's like not all at once, they're kind of spread out more, so you're not overwhelming healthcare services. So I think that's really the goal for the government right now. Unfortunately, it seems like it will prolong it for longer, which is, again, just kind of scary to think about. Like, when does life get back to normal?
Yeah.
We did have a trip booked in the middle of May, and it's not canceled yet, simply because the policy for American Airlines is currently only allowing you to cancel without penalty up to the end of April. I fully expect that they're going to end up extending that, so we've kind of just been waiting. But honestly, I don't think we're going to feel comfortable going, even if the flight is still scheduled. Like, I feel like the anxiety. We were going to go to Ecuador, potentially being quarantined in South America is just scary. And with how things are changing, like, there is a good possibility that we could go to Ecuador and not be able to fly back home, at least not easily. So that's a very realistic possibility right now. They are closing down country borders, like Italy is locked down. There are other countries, I know Norway, Denmark, there's other countries that are just completely closing their borders. I did hear there were actually South American countries like Peru and Brazil that were closing their borders too. A lot can happen. Our trip was a little less than 2 months out at this point, so who knows?
Leave on like the 14th, I think.
Who knows what things would look like then. I'm not expecting that they would be resolved or anything.
Really, just in the past week and a half, it's just changed a lot.
People are mostly being asked to just stay home, to avoid going outside unless it's for essential services, self-quarantine, at least keep social distancing as much as possible. We're not obeying the rules of staying 6 feet apart from each other, but luckily neither of us has been feeling sick, but again, that doesn't mean we aren't carriers. But yeah, this all just sounds like a scary movie, and this is all just a new virus, so it's just a matter of figuring out what's effective. At my hospital, we have a respiratory waiting room outside of our emergency department that's specifically just for patients showing respiratory symptoms, so that they're not coming into the ED and getting other patients sick. And then just this week, we started a COVID-19 drive-through clinic. So you need to have an appointment, but then you're able to kind of get tested in an orderly fashion, and they're trying to speed up the testing so that people can get results quicker. Like, if we did start feeling sick, I don't know that we still even know what we should do. We don't really have like regular physicians, so it's kind of a matter of, I'll call the last doctor I saw, but that was like years ago.
Yeah, like we got some messages a few days ago that we have the like live doctor thing where we can get like kind of diagnosed online. I'm not even sure like what they're able to really do with that.
I think the issue is they still don't want everybody coming to get tested. They only want you coming if you're like really sick, if you know you've been around someone who has COVID-19. The problem is that anybody could have it, and there's not enough tests to just test everybody. And someone who's asymptomatic could still be spreading it. It's just risky. It's an evolving situation. A lot has changed over the past few months. So there are cities in the US that have not technically locked down, they call it shelter in place, but like San Francisco had issued shelter in place orders. Actually, that expanded to the entire state of California. I know New York had talked about it. I don't think they've moved forward with it.
I don't think so. I think Philadelphia or something too, or somewhere in Pennsylvania.
There was talk that Ohio might do it. It's reassuring that our governor of Ohio, he does a daily press conference, and he's taken some more extreme measures that not all other states have decided to pursue, like closing down all the bars and restaurants. And from what you were saying, it seemed like he was kind of being positively regarded for being willing to take big steps like that.
Yeah, it definitely seems like he's been more aggressive in trying to fight this, which is why I vaguely expect that we'll be sheltering in place sooner rather than later.
In the meantime, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
We're not really going to do much today. I think maybe we'll start playing some games. We made some Quarantinis. You got your drink there, want to show it?
It's mostly just booze with Emergen-C packets in it.
We'll just be in. Maybe we'll keep in our mind that, you know, once this clears up, we'll be able to go out. But, I mean, there are projections saying this could go into summer, if not longer.
That's the part that still seems the most crazy. Because it's only been like a couple weeks at most since it feels like it really took root in the States. Definitely no more than beginning of March when it even first began being mentioned with any regularity.
I went out with my friend Jordan at the very end of February. It was February 29th, and we went out to a couple of bars near her house. Like, we still talked about the coronavirus, but it wasn't in Ohio yet, or at least it wasn't identified in Ohio yet.
It was still like much more of like a cruise ship thing.
Yeah,
like
there were cruise ships that were completely like quarantined.
Yeah, it wasn't a global pandemic yet. It feels like it's been so much longer, I think just because of how crazy everything's gotten, but it's just been a couple weeks.
Just within a few days from that, things really escalated. And it was just last week, like literally last Sunday, when they closed the bars and restaurants, wasn't it?
I think so. It wasn't until like just before last weekend that we were even like building up more of like a food pantry to kind of make sure we had stuff. Like, it's definitely escalated just in the past week and a half.
So, more to come. We'll see how this ends up
Yeah.
playing out, but it's just a really like heightened anxiety, time of uncertainty for a lot of people. And I think we're all just hoping for the best and hoping that we reach a turnaround point as quickly as possible, because, you know, especially millennials, our generation, like, that puts our parents in the most impacted group. Ready to play some games?
Yep.
Okay, cool. The bad Jesus.
The bad Jesus?
What's his name? I can't remember his name.
These skies